This month, we see and celebrate the achievements and contributions of the Black community here in the Bay Area. You know, just a few weeks ago, community members came together to highlight and recognize some of the most important African Americans working in tech.
Yeah, it was organized by a man who spent decades empowering Black Americans in the Bay Area and recognizing their historic contributions, and comes at a moment when diversity, equity, and inclusion are under attack by the Trump administration. So joining us right now is historian and advocate John William Templeton. So glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here. And part of this conversation, you've studied Black labor and businesses for decades, and we just talked about that, DEI being a big part of what we're seeing nationally in the conversation when it does come to our current administration. So talk about that and just how important it is as we move forward supporting businesses.
Well, Black work is the most important issue in American history. So we actually fought a war, our most deadly war, over whether Black people could be paid for their work. And for the
Just paid.
Yeah, yes. And for the first 140 years of the country, the federal government, from the 13 colonies all the way to the 48 contiguous, was funded by the taxes on the cotton that was grown by African Americans. So we still face this issue, but the real story is that there are 20 million African Americans in the civilian labor force now. And over the last 5 years, we've had our most impressive growth. 2.5 million have graduate degrees, another 4 million have bachelor's degrees, another 4 million have some college. So half of the Black labor force is college educated.
Right.
So this whole notion of merit is completely baseless. And what I've done for the last 35 years, since I was the editor of the San Jose Business Journal, is point out that most of the significant contributions in Silicon Valley were done by African Americans. First 10 years of Apple, their vice president of engineering was African American, and you just did the story on Roy Clay,
right?
Yes.
Who was basically the original programmer back in the 1950s,
and now a children's book,
Fortran and COBOL.
Wow.
So we really have to change the narrative to the reality, because the rhetoric that we're hearing is the same thing that Andrew Johnson said in the 1860s, and he got impeached as well.
Well, and our children are listening. You know, we've been showing the video of the kids at that summit talking about AI, talking about tech. How do you encourage hope in these kids in an era when you've seen the end of affirmative action, you're seeing an onslaught of attacks against DEI in our country, providing on-ramps, opportunity, opening doors? How do you inspire hope in these young kids here who we are seeing on our screen right now in an era when every time they turn on the television, I mean, we even saw a plane crash blamed early on by the President of the United States on DEI. How do you inspire hope in that environment?
Well, tomorrow on Wednesday, we have our 24th Innovation and Equity Symposium and for the 50 most important African Americans in technology, which was actually inspired by Roy Clay. And so we have African leaders in cocoa, in diamonds, and we have an 80 cities initiative where we're linking the 80 cities in Africa and the Caribbean with more than 1 million population, which is 30 more than North America and Europe combined. So the future of the world is Africa. 40% of the young people are in Africa. So our strategy is the same as it was in the 1700s, to focus on our own unity, on our own strength. I have studied the free African schools that were started in the 1760s. Those students learned 2 languages and played 2 instruments, and they were the people who led the abolition movement. So to quote John Wooden, as long as we play our game, doesn't matter what other people do.
Yeah.
And so if you looked at the Super Bowl halftime show, I think it was pretty eloquent.
With some Bay Area representation.
Definitely.
Rebuttal to that. So, but personally, the theme of African Americans in labor during February is something that we really have to instill in our young people. So,
and having these conversations is very important as well.
On the 15th,
we're running out of time, unfortunately, because we're headed to break, but we thank you for these conversations, and we hope to have many more of these with you and learning about these resources. And thank you for your work in making sure everyone is aware of the history behind where we come from and how important it is to support businesses, especially Black-owned businesses.
Come back, please.
Okay.
Please do.
We're glad you're a part of our community. Thank you so much.